Peace and the mercy and blessings of Allah be with you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thank you for joining me for this continuing series. Our series is entitled, as you know, 30 Days to a Better You. We look at 30 different characteristics, traits, or behaviors that we can develop during the month of Ramadan, one at a time, one day at a time, so that we may emerge as better persons in the end. So under that general topic, we've been looking at a subtopic, strengthening the spiritual heart. And last time we talked about forgiving others and getting rid of hard feelings against others. Now, today, we deal with developing sympathy for the poor. Now, when we look around the world, we see that many people are suffering from the horrors of war, from devastation, from invasions, from occupying forces. We see people living in ghetto conditions. We see them living in squalor and poverty. We see children hungry in many different parts of the world. How can we develop that sort of sympathy, seeing that we are largely in Canada and in many parts of the developed world, we're living in the bounties and with the bounties that God has given us. We live in relative ease and comfort, and we can easily forget those who are impoverished in various parts of the world. So how can we develop that sympathy? That's our question for today. So let's look at how important this is in the Quranic context. In the Quran, in the 59th chapter, in the 9th verse, there is a mention about the believers, يُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. They prefer others above themselves, even if they are impoverished themselves, even if they are, in straitened circumstances. So that's about people, that's the attitude of the believers. It's even if we are in difficulty ourselves, we still prefer others above ourselves. We prefer to help somebody else than to claim that bounty or whatever goodness is there for ourselves. Of course, that's an ideal that is hard to live by, but it's an interesting story in the life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, about one of his companions. He had invited a guest to his home, and he and his wife worked out a plan to keep the lights dim. Of course, they had their candle light or whatever, lamp, oil lamp, or whatever the case is. And they agreed to keep the light dim so that the guests wouldn't know that they're not eating, so that the guests can have sufficient to eat. And then when this verse was revealed, it is related that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said to this man, "You have done well," or to that extent, to the effect of that. So the idea of this whole narrative is that this verse of the Quran was revealed in reference to this man and his wife who preferred the guest over themselves, even though they themselves did not have much to live on. So that shows the high morality, the high standard of ethics, and the ideals to which Muslims work towards. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to develop that. So that's sympathy for the poor. This is, people preferring others above themselves. But when we look around, it's hard not to be sympathetic to the poor. And yet we might become callous over time. We could become uncaring. We can be forgetful of the sufferings of others when we are ourselves wallowing in wealth. We should reflect a lot on the Quran. The Quran speaks a lot about the orphans and the poor and people in distress. In the Quran, we read that our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was an orphan himself. In the 93rd chapter of the Quran, God addresses the Prophet, peace be upon him, and says to him, "Alam yajidka yatiman fa'awa." Did he not find you as an orphan, and he took you in? God, meaning God, took care of the Prophet, peace be upon him. And the story of our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is a moving one, in that he was still in his mother's womb when his father passed away. And then his mother also died when he was just a couple of years old. Then he went to live with his grandfather, And his grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, also passed away when the Prophet, peace be upon him, was only about 6 years old. And thence the Prophet, peace be upon him, moved in with his uncle Abu Talib. So you can see that he was an orphan boy. And it is this orphan boy who later on grew up to be and called by God to be the messenger of God. And he became a world prophet, a messenger of God, followed by Muslims throughout the world today, having now some 1.2 billion followers or more, 1/4 approximately, or of the world's population. So we should not look down on the orphan. So that same chapter of the Quran says, فَأَمَّا الْيَتِيمَ فَلَا تَقْهَرْ. As for the orphan, do not oppress him or her. وَأَمَّا السَّائِلَ فَلَا تَنْهَرْ. And as for the one who is begging, do not repulse that person. So we are encouraged by Muslims in so many different ways, from the Quran, from the life example of our Prophet, peace be upon him, and the exhortations that are contained within his reported sayings. All of these combine to tell us in a single word, we have to be sympathetic to the poor and the needy. While we are fasting during the month of Ramadan, this is an excellent time to develop that sympathy for the poor. Just reflect on it. Think about the fact that during the days of Ramadan, we are avoiding our food and drink, even though it is good and it is available, but we are doing so for the pleasure of God. How much more would it be for the pleasure of God if we can forego some of our food and drink in order to make this available to people who are impoverished, people who really need it in various parts of the world. So let us start during this month of Ramadan to reflect, and let us give charity a little bit at a time and increase our charity so that with giving the charity, we can develop that sympathy for the poor and we increase that over time. So thank you for watching this episode. Tomorrow, we will continue dealing with this important topic of strengthening the spiritual heart. And tomorrow's topic will be controlling anger. So please continue to watch 30 Days to a Better You. Peace be with you. Assalamu alaikum. On behalf of Let the Quran Speak, I want to say thank you for supporting us. Please continue to support us this Ramadan. May God bless you and your loved ones with the very best always. And may you draw ever closer to God this Ramadan.